Welcome to the Sleepy G Show. I'm your host for your most. My name is Gomez, and tonight, like every night in the Sleepy G Show, we have another amazing special guest. I would like to bring in Stephen Ray Clark from When Mountain Speaks. How are you, Steve? How are you tonight?
Doing well, Alex. It's Clark's son. Just
Clarkson, I'm
yeah.
sorry. See, I mess up anytime with my own show. This is what I love what I do.
No, it's no problem at all. No problem at all.
See that and Clarkson, I'm sorry. I am. This is what happens when you are from New Jersey. Your
Like
accent.
Kelly, I always say like because it's one of those names that people know Clark, but Clark's son is kind of
So,
a little
yeah.
unusual. Yeah,
No, I wouldn't say unusual. I just pronounced it the way Jersey would have said it,
right. Exactly.
but
Exactly.
that's what happens.
Yeah.
So now I was introduced to you by Mason, like big shout out to Mason from Music Out Music Group. And I gotta say, you play an instrument I've only seen maybe 3 or 4 times in my entire life.
Mhm.
And it's kind of funny, there's an incredible singer who sings about it, but you play the mandolin.
One of the things I play, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
So I have to ask, how did you get into playing a mandolin, if you don't mind me asking?
It's actually, I mean, I don't know if you want to go through my entire musical story, but in a nutshell, I started playing saxophone in fifth grade. So that was
No,
my
me
first
too.
introduction to actually playing an instrument. And I played all throughout middle school and high school. And of course, I got the 80s hair band, wanting to learn guitar in the 80s. So still was playing saxophone in band, but all my practice time was on the guitar. And then
Mhm.
I basically went to college and joined a fraternity, and then there was no more instruments for a while. But I was also ROTC, went
Oh
overseas,
wow.
came back, uh, ended up leaving the army, moving to Texas. I had not played an instrument in a long time. This whole time in the army, everything. Get here, and I'm like, I want to pick up guitar again. So I started playing, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to like play an instrument with my wife? So
Hmm.
I was like, what can I have to would accompany the guitar well? And I was like, acoustic mandolin, that would be perfect. And why I did that, I don't know. It just like something popped in my head and was like, it seemed like a good match. And so bought her a kind of inexpensive Mexican knockoff, and she had no interest in it. But
Oh wow.
I picked it up and could not put it down. So I basically it reintroduced me into the fervor of music, where like in my middle school years, I practiced a lot saxophone a lot. I loved it. The mandolin brought that passion back into me, and I started playing in church, started playing prayer and worship services. Ended up doing a Bible study where I was basically every day I was reading scripture and then going through and reflecting on the mandolin and stuff like that. And it just kind of reintroduced me into the world of music and just a passion that I had lost, and I rekindled the passion. So that was pretty cool.
Well, a reason you had good reasons for losing the pastor. You get into a fraternity that's always a big deal. But, again, I want to say, as you said, you were in the army. I want to thank you for your services too,
Sure,
sir.
sure,
So,
sure.
that's something we don't want to forget. You know what I mean? We appreciate what you did for us and what
Shit.
it means a lot to us. And we want to make sure we highlight that for you.
Thank you.
Um, because without you, we would not be here right now either.
A lot of folks, and I actually was served during peacetime. So I mean, I
Okay.
was in during Desert Shield Storm, which was not
Thank
necessarily a great conflict, but it wasn't nearly as toilsome on families and a
mhm.
problem for families as the Iraq I
Yeah,
gambled.
right. Yeah, I remember. As young as I am, I know when I say people, I'm only 44. I'm like, oh my God, you're a baby. I'm like, yeah, but this baby went through a lot in the 90s. I've seen
My
all those
gosh,
wars. You,
yeah. I
you,
mean, the how long did that world lasted? 10 years. So,
10, almost 10 years. Yeah. What did it went through? Bush Senior, Bush Junior, and I think a little bit of Clinton. I don't
well,
even remember.
the first Iraq war was pretty quick, but the second conflict after 9/11 lasted
Oh yeah, that's still
good.
that was a good.
That's Yeah, it was a good long time. So,
That's yeah, Clinton, Bush, and I think Obama finished it. With
well,
this so
it got out under Biden. Biden basically
uh,
had the weird exit strategy, but there was ebbs and flows to the whole thing. But
yeah.
music, so mandolin basically rekindled the spirit, and I
Mm.
basically was really into playing every day. I mean, that's the way I woke up. That's the way I was working full time, supporting the family, but I was
Hmm.
up in the morning practicing. I bring my mandolin to work, play at work, all that kind of stuff, and then basically realize what was wrong with my guitar playing. And what was wrong with it was I didn't understand fourths or tuning in fourths.
Ah.
Mandolin's tuned in fifths, and it's a pattern-based instrument that's very easy to see and picture, kind of like a piano is laid out in front of you.
Hmm.
Mandolin fretboard is kind of laid out like a piano, so it's very easy to go ahead and kind of see where you're going. And then, as you know, someone who listens to a lot of music, as you're playing stuff, you're like making all those connections. You're like, well, that note goes really well with that note, and that note goes well with that. So I ended up, so I got into electric stuff, and that's kind of where a lot of my website, a lot of my current music I've been doing has been basically taking a guitar and tuning it like a mandolin.
And I'll say you had some great songs actually posted on your YouTube page because
Thank you.
actually I watched some of the stuff and I love how it's actually I'm not gonna lie when I say it's calming. It can calm you.
It's melted. It's kind of in your face electric, but it's meditative because
Yeah.
this is like the stuff I do at 4 o'clock in the morning or 4:30 in the morning. I wake up and the first thing I do is go into the studio and like the world opens and it's like like a little kid in a candy store and I have my saxophones and I have my bass and my guitars and my harmonica and keyboard and piano and I produce myself. So
Oh, okay.
it's I was in a trio for a while. It's really hard, and I'm sure people out there that are musicians know that musicians can be finicky, including myself, and it's you getting all the schedules lined up and making all that stuff happen can be kind of difficult. So I still play with other people, I still collaborate.
Hmm.
It's more like I'll do stuff and then ship it off to that person and vice versa. And every once in a while, I get together with my buddies in the trio and we'll play. But yeah, so it's just been an amazing thing. And I'm back in school too.
Oh,
At the age of 55, I went back to Berkeley in
nice.
Boston, Berkeley Online, and
Hmm.
I'm studying music. Did get a degree in music.
But that's amazing what you're doing. You decide to go back to school and major in music. And I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
and that's something that's amazing because I, me personally, I was never a school person. I'm more of a hands-on, learn, shoot from the hip kind of guy, like I do here on
yeah,
my show,
yeah,
improv. I
yeah.
mean, I've learned. I like I always say, my father was street smart. My mother was very book smart. Unfortunately, the street smarts landed on my side and not the book smarts.
But that's a good way to be.
No, I'm not saying my daughter though. I love my little 8-year-old girl.
Huh.
I'll tell you this, she's very book smart, but she's very street smart too.
Right, right. That's
And
that
and
both great.
she's a dual threat. I said she's going to be the most dangerous person growing up.
Right.
And my wife goes, "Why would you say that?" Because she has your mentality, but she also has a mentality of a hustler. Like me, you work, you grind, but also you know what to do and how to massage the system the way it will make it fit for her, like I do.
Oh, does she know what she wants to do? Does she have interests in terms of like career?
So, well, career right now, not at 8, but I know she loves her.
I'm good.
She's a dancer.
Dancer. Okay.
So she loves to dance. She's in the competition team and she's focused like I was. You know what I mean? Like I was a football player. I
Okay.
focused on that. And when I hurt my knee, I decided to go into coaching. And matter of fact, I was lucky enough that my old high school team,
Uh-huh.
allowed me to coach right out of high school and help
Nice.
out. I did it voluntarily just when I was going to school and working part time. And I
Right.
was helping the team part time. And then I was very blessed to be with them for a couple of years and won a state championship with them.
That's very cool.
And I actually got the ring, and it's actually in my real state championship ring as a coach is in there with my fake New York Rangers hockey ring and my fake
Right.
four-time Super Bowl champions New York Giants at that time,
Right.
Super Bowl ring. So, but that ring is so monumental for me because it's
That's
my
it.
very first championship ring ever.
Yeah, I've in music just to kind of bring and congratulations on that. That's
Thank
fantastic.
you.
I see my music be working really well in film.
Mhm. Ah, see, film's great.
It's really cinematic in terms of
Hmm.
like it's very mood enhancing, or like you said, meditative,
Hmm.
or some of it's a little ominous or what have you. So I've been entering this, I do these longer videos, and they're actually AI videos. I hire an AI engineer, and I
Right.
basically give them a storyboard. And it's not like some people think AI is just like you type in a paragraph and it spits out a 20-minute video.
Right.
These guys do is like Minotaur. I don't know if you watch Minotaur. It was the deep
Yes.
Dragons kind of one. That was over 200 AI renderings.
Hmm.
It was actually over 200 different video snippets that he had to basically write paragraphs for, that I kind of gave him an idea what I wanted. And then he edited them all together. So it's not, it's just a lot more. I think a lot of people are kind of scared about AI, that it's so powerful that it'll take over the
Yeah.
world. And they have to understand that it can't think for itself. You have to feed it stuff. And
Yep,
even
that's correct.
so it's I guess so what I was going to say is so I put these, my original music with these storyboards I come up with. And I just this year I've won two more film festivals. Last year I won two film festivals.
Oh,
So
nice.
starting to kind of pick up speed. And it's not that with music, it's not that I'm like looking to be famous or anything. I just
Hmm.
love it and I want to share it. It's one of those things that just it excites me.
Yeah.
Kind of like how your football coaching days. I mean,
Hmm.
it when you find a passion or something that like ignites you in the morning, gets you up and gets you going, and you're actually laying in bed the night before, and you're like, man, what am I gonna do tomorrow morning? You're going through your
Yeah.
head like, I want to do something with saxophone and maybe some piano, and I want to start that way. And it's just it's again like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
It's
It's the same thing like the passion I have for podcasting now. You know what I mean? What I love
right,
when I do this because like you said, oh, I get up in the morning, I have to go to my real job first thing in the morning.
right,
But
right.
but don't get me wrong, I have my notes in my books, and if when I have 5 or 10 minutes at not concentrating at work, I actually do look at my stuff because
Right.
trying to remember, trying to make my footnotes for the videos, make sure I got the online, the YouTube, the X, the aka Twitter. If you have a
Mhm.
Facebook page, I do all that stuff too, so people can find you, you
That's
know,
very yeah.
because I love sharing what everyone's talking about.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, I had a great example. I had this one guest, and he was just talking about how awesome Keith Richards is.
Right,
And he
right.
goes, I know him personally. You would not believe if you sat down and talked to him, he's like a normal human being. I'm like, but he's a rock god.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like every single musician out there is. It's just like people. Musicians are
Yeah.
people. So there are arrogant musicians, and there are amazing musicians that are open their hearts to you.
He
There's
was,
all.
he's like a down to earth.
I believe it.
I believe it now after listening to him because I was just like, wow. I thought this guy all he did was smoke up cigarettes and drink some whiskey in the morning just to keep him alive, I think.
Right.
And, but this is, the funny thing of life. You know what I mean? Like, when I hear what people go through and find their passion, it's an amazing feat. I think, because you're doing what you love, and that's something I really commend you on. You served in the armed services for so many years, and thank you again, as I mentioned. And now you found your passion of music through the mandolay, and that's something that's really cool. Now, if anybody who doesn't know what a mandolay is, I actually said something else before we started this conversation, which is kind of funny. But a mandolay guitar is not the biggest guitar ever. It's probably what, three or
A mandolin and a guitar are two totally, completely
mm,
different instrument families. Mandolin is basically tuned the same way and is about the same size as a violin.
okay.
And except for violin is fretless, and mandolins, every mandolin I've seen has always had been a fretted instrument, which means you
Mhm.
have like the frets are the perpendicular pieces of wire that run up,
Wire.
and you put your finger in between them. Fretless
Mm.
would be like just markers, and it's completely different. But so mandolin came to the States more as a classical instrument back in the 1800s, from what I understand. I mean, this is like stuff I read a long time
Right,
ago,
right.
but it didn't really get popular until Bill Monroe picked one up,
Hmm.
invented bluegrass. I mean, he's the father of bluegrass. He invented an
Well,
entire
yeah.
on-road music. And so since then, mandolin has really been primarily used up until the early 70s. Like, you remember that song by Rod Stewart, Maggie May?
Yes, yes, I do.
Yeah, it's got the mandolin intro.
Sure.
That's one of the first songs I can think of, like recorded songs that wasn't used. The mandolin wasn't used either like in a folk or a bluegrass setting. It was more used more in kind of like a popular rock and
Hmm.
roll kind of setting. And since then, it's used more. I mean, there's like jam bands like String Cheese Incident that basically use electric mandolin, baritone mandolins.
Hmm.
There's all different kinds, but traditionally it's a bluegrass instrument. Now it's used for across the board,
Across the board. And it's got,
orchestra, the whole nine yards.
I'm not a huge bluegrass guy, but it's kind of funny. I remember when some of my friends who love bluegrass play it, I'm like, dude, what instrument is that? I'm like, it's not a freaking guitar. I know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it just sounds different the way it plays. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a guitar, but it's not an acoustic guitar, but it's not this. And, it's always an argument. You know what I mean?
It's a
Like,
higher register instrument. It's a higher
yeah,
octave. It's not as deep as now. You can get like a I mean, mandolin family. They have everything from like the mandolin to the octave mandolin, which is
mhm.
one octave down from a mandolin. Then you get the mandocello, which is more like a cello, and then you got the mando bass, which is just like a big old, just like a stand-up bass, but it's a
Bass.
man.
I've
So
seen that in a couple jam bands that I've seen live.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Oh God, who was that band? It's gonna kill me. John Butler Trio has a bass like that.
Is it double bass, like a jazz bass
Yeah.
kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, you don't find mando bass that much anymore, and they're actually different than a regular bass, but it's the same idea. It's the
Yeah.
same concept. Like a bass, like a stand-up bass is the guitar as a mando bass would be to a
Mhm.
mandolin.
Yeah, it was so cool because I actually got to see them in Pennsylvania, which was an hour from where I live. It's like an hour's
Okay,
drive. And
it's great, isn't it? Central
and
Texas,
yeah, and I'll tell you, this guy who played the guy John Butler, his
right?
trio band, his band, and they have this Australian jam rock band.
Okay,
Like
okay,
he actually plays the guitar like on a stand. Like I've never seen it before, and he actually uses his fingers. If his fingernails are shaped like picks, like sharp picks.
right, right. That's very popular flat picking.
Yeah, and then it just was so cool. I mean, like seeing that and hearing it, like I actually that stuff I resonate to because I love listening to stuff like that because they're not they're known, but like they're not mainstreamed on like any big radio stations also. So when you hear them
Right.
and you appreciate it more, and that's something I appreciate always.
Yeah, I mean, I have it's interesting. I'm in a music therapy class now. They talk a lot about acoustic music in general, as opposed to like music with singing or
Hmm.
song. That especially like when we first start out as kids, up for the first 18 months. This is for all the mothers out there and fathers out there, like with young kids. That it's really good to expose your kids to acoustic instrumental music
Hmm.
because when you have nursery rhymes and everything at that age, it almost confuses the kid with language because not only have they have to think about pitch,
Yeah.
think about the words. So to speak to them and all that kind of stuff is very important. But also when you're playing things, play light classical or light jazz or things that are like have easy melodies to understand, but they don't have words because for obvious reasons.
It's kind of funny. Like I'll say it, I listen to classical, like not real classical, but it's like it's weird. And they're called the Piano Guys, the Two Cellos, and they do awesome cover songs.
Nice.
Like the Two Cellos did Thunderstruck, and they're
AC/DC?
yeah from
Oh,
AC/DC.
really? That's awesome.
And you hear them, and I mean, I've seen a video where they're banging on the cello, and then the strings break. They throw their bar, and then there's another one right there. They're going crazy,
It's
like,
awesome. It's
and
awesome.
but then it's like for me, it's that like the for you, it's for the mental. It's just that calming, soothing sound. Even my daughter. It's kind of funny. We were listening to I have an acoustic playlist of
Hmm.
all different types of bands. Like one of my bands I like is Seether.
Okay.
and they did that song Fine Again, and he did a live acoustic version, and it
Nice.
sounds so amazing. And I'm just like, wow, I just love the acoustic version more than the rock version.
There's a band called Goat Rodeo or Goat Rodeo that has
Okay.
Yo-Yo Ma on cello, Chris Thiele on mandolin, Edgar Meyer on bass, and what's his first name? Something Duncan on fiddle. And I think a lot of it's, I mean, these guys are like the best of the best on their
Mm,
other instruments, and the way they communicate. I'm guessing a lot of it was kind of like planned out, but not every note was planned out. So the changes and everything, and the way they feed off each other and go back and forth, it's like a conversation. It's like we're having right
yeah.
now with instruments. It's absolutely fantastic.
And that's awesome too, because you, like you said, when you get that type of group and you can get them together like that and work and, like you said, have a conversation with your instruments, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. My stuff is very, especially well, actually, my acoustic instrumental music is more, it's improvisational, but it's within a key structure.
Hmm.
My electric stuff, some of it's in a key structure, some of it's more like free jazz improvisational.
Right.
So I don't really, I have an idea of like sections, but exactly what I'm going to play, I don't know
Hmm.
until after it's played, and I'll basically, layer like I'll record the first track down, and then I'll layer the bass over it, or I'll put the bass down first, and layer guitar, and layer saxophone, layer harmonica,
Right.
etc. And that's another thing. I mean, people out there that want to start getting into music, it's so easy nowadays with home computers and home recording equipment to basically learn instruments and then apply it the same day. I mean, I think everybody has an innate ability to be creative, whether it's music or whether it's podcasts or
Hmm.
whatever your passion is. But if you're interested in playing an instrument, pick an instrument and just start going with it. It's really it's a lot easier than people think it is. I think
Yeah. I
people get nervous about, oh, I'm going to make a mistake, or what are the people going to think of me, or I'm not going to be as good as Eddie Van Halen. Of course, you're going to be different than Eddie Van Halen, but
oh yeah.
I mean, you think about like art. Like think about when your little girl
Hmm.
wrote, or your little boy wrote, drew his first picture.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody would say, okay, you can have that picture, or you can have this 40 or $500,000 Picasso.
Right.
What would you rather have? And I'm
I take
like,
my
I'd
kids.
much rather have my kid's first picture. I don't really
Yeah.
know. I mean, so beauty in art is in the eye of the beholder completely. I mean, it's not something that it's unique. Everybody's unique. It's
Yeah,
great.
that's really true. Everyone is definitely unique because it's kind of funny. Like for me, my musical influences, I grew up in a hip hop era in
Okay,
the
cool.
in the 90s. In
Right.
the early 90s, I was heavily into hip hop, of course. You know what I mean? I had my White Sox hat and, you
What
know,
band? What was it?
I loved Wu-Tang Clan,
Okay, okay,
the early stuff of Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, when they were NWA a little bit, growing up, listening to Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg,
okay.
all these old school hip hop, as I call them. You
My
know,
wife
we've
loves Snoop Dogg. She just loves
Oh,
Snoop.
I love when Snoop Dogg came out with Dr. Dre with Ain't Nothing But a G Thing. I just said, this is it. I love this song. And that's where, with my last name, I always told people, just call me G, please.
Yeah,
If you're going to call me
yeah,
Gomez, just call me G. And they're
yeah.
like, why? You're not. I'm like, yeah, but, in my head, I thought it was, and it's kind of funny. That's one thing about the show is like, I used to record with my old show with my best friend. I used to
Uh-huh.
record without the sleeves.
Okay,
So,
okay,
so, so I was always called the sleeveless one and all that. And then
right.
someone goes, "Why not Sleevey G?" I'm like, "Wow,
That's pretty good.
I
Yeah.
like it." So
Yeah.
I put it up on Twitter at the time, and when I said, "Hey, I'm going to do my own show," what does everyone think? That Sleevey G became the ultimate consensus then compared to the other names that I had, and they're like, it took over. So that's why, like, and then when I got into rock too, I my first instance with rock was Metallica.
Okay.
And the first song I heard from Metallica was One.
Okay. Okay. I remember
Some
that.
Someone introduced me to old school Metallica.
Now, I got a quick story for you.
Yeah.
I grew up in Miami in the in high school in the 80s, and
Hmm.
I saw every concert I could possibly see. And Miami was so far south that the only things we get would be the traveling shows,
Right.
Rush, Foreigner, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Monsters of Rock, I think this was 1983. The headliner was Scorpions. So this was an all-day
Oh,
festival. This one thing was in the Orange Bowl. So it was like an all-day festival. Who opened up that show at like 12 o'clock p.m. noon, high noon? Metallica before their first album even came out.
wow.
And there were about 75 to 100 kids on the field that knew who they were, and they were all slam dancing. I don't know, like now, I don't know if people still slam dance to Metallica.
They
In
mosh
those
pit
days,
it.
it was like it was the mosh pit was huge. I mean, it was
I'll be honest with
incredible,
you. They just played New Jersey not too long ago, over the summer, when they did their new world tour this year.
right?
And people were on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, TikTok Live, and I see people in the second and third tiers, and you see in the pit, as I call it.
Right,
I'm
right.
like, I'm 45 years old. How the hell are these guys my age doing this shit still?
Crazy. It's crazy.
Because it's nuts. I couldn't even do that anymore. Maybe when I was in my 20s, where I was muscular, not out of shape, where I could push people out of my way.
They have people like in their 40s and 50s moshing.
Yes.
There is really, that's
Oh
crazy.
my God. I was just cracking up. I mean, one of my favorite bands I watched, and I'll tell you with the harmonic, is Blues Traveler.
Oh, I love Blues Traveler.
One of
They
my
played
best.
for my fraternity.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. The year after we John Popper and he was hanging out in our section. Nice guys.
Yeah,
It
he
was
is truly amazing. Actually, a friend of mine opened up for John Popper in Bergen Pack here in New Jersey. My
They're
my
from New
good,
York, aren't they? They're from New York,
I
aren't
think
they?
they are from upstate New York. So me and him, we were talking. I'm like, yeah, man, we need a case of White Castle to get John on the show. He goes, oh, I love me some White Castle. He answered me. So we started talking, and I don't know what
Cool.
happened after that. We never got a chance to really talk to him after that, but to see he answered me was really cool. And I remember watching him, and this is I got introduced to Matasiahu, which he was a
I don't,
his
I don't know who
he's
they
a
are.
his Matasiahu is a Hasidic Jewish young man who is
Okay.
a hip hop artist.
Nice. Okay.
And let me tell you, he took the world by the storm, and I really digged his music.
Okay.
And they actually John Popper opened up for him. Blues Traveler opened
That's
up for
very cool.
Matasiahu, so I got to see him, and I said, "Well, I never heard about it. Heard the once in the radio." And I literally thought he was a hip hop artist. I didn't think it was a white guy,
Right, right.
a Hasidic Jew. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing either, man. The
Oh,
guy has
no.
talent.
Yeah.
And we got to see him live, and it was kind of shocking. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
wow, like my mouth dropped. Like,
Right.
wow, he could sing. Like, he was an
I've
amazing
always
singer.
I've been I'm blown away. I'm not really into high hip hop that much.
Mhm.
I appreciate the art form. I
Yeah,
just much about it. My son's way into it, and what he loves so much about it is the poetry, is the wordplay. Is it's not necessarily the beat. It's not necessarily
no,
the language. It's the way they explain things and express things, and the fact that
yeah,
they can do it on the spot sometimes.
yeah,
It's like just like I mean, the way their mind, how quickly their mind puts phrases together and rhyming things and ideas and
yeah,
build stories, and it's kind of very similar to like the beat artists in the
yeah.
1950s who would stand up there and like just like recite poetry off the top of their heads. I mean,
And that's the thing. Like, I mean, for me, hip hop has kind of gone a different direction now in this stage. But in my era, your son's right. In the 90s to maybe mid 2000s, you know, it was a story that the hip hop artist supplied you.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, Eminem is well known for his stories of hip hop.
yeah.
You look at the songs, his hip hop Stan. Um, there's so many songs. The Real Slim Shady is one. You know,
I watched that movie 8.5 Miles, and
8 Mile, yeah,
I was like, or is it 8 miles? 8 miles?
8 Mile, yeah,
No, 9.5 souvenirs, 8.5 souvenirs,
yeah.
which was an awesome band. Um, yeah, I after seeing 8 Miles, I was like that rapping thing where they do at the end where they basically
Yeah, the
what do
rap
you call
battle.
that when they go back like face to face? What do
Yeah,
they
the
call
rap
it?
battle. Yep, rap battle.
Battle? I was amazed,
Yeah.
and I was like wondering like after that, I wonder if like in the movie if it was unrehearsed.
From what I'm hearing, it was semi-rehearsed for
Semi.
the actor. For Eminem, who's
And
in,
it was like
I think he did
opposite.
his, I think he just ad-libbed his. Like he just, they gave him the free range to do whatever
Kind
he
of like
wanted.
Rob Williams is like the genie kind of thing, you know.
Yes.
Made up. He had like a basic outline of what he's going to talk about, but it
Ex
was completely ad libbed.
and but I mean, Eminem is definitely one of my favorite hip hop artists growing up to, hearing his stuff and knowing what he fought for and what he's doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, but also I like a lot of, it's funny that no one really talks about his country music.
I didn't know he did country music.
Well, not him, but I think he worked with a country superstar not too long ago, matter of fact, I
Okay.
think. But it's funny, but no one talks about country music anymore.
Country music, yeah,
In
okay,
general, just in general. And what's funny, it wasn't until like maybe 7 or 8 years ago I got into country music a little bit.
okay, okay.
And
New country or old country? New country or old country?
new and old, depending on who, when you're talking Billy Ray Cyrus, I wouldn't consider him new country. I consider him like 90s. Garth Brooks is another one. Toby Keith. I
I
do.
kind of see country as like George Strait was the last of the old guys.
George Strait's another one, of
And
course.
then the new country kind of came in with Garth Brooks, and
It's
the whole trajectory of country changed to be more like pop rock country. I'm not saying, I mean,
no,
and now it's kind of going back,
to
like
what it
Frank
used to be.
Stapleton stuff, back to like the old. It's like
Yeah.
everything's kind of like it ebbs and flows. It's like music in general. You repeat the past, you come back.
I look at some of them. I like Jason Aldean. I like Garth Brooks. You know what I mean. I love Big and Rich. When you look at some of these names, you're just like, wow, no matter what. You know what I mean. But it's funny. Like again, they tell you a story. They paint that story. Like Garth Brooks, Thunder Rolls. There's such a painted story, like you said. You
Yeah.
know, that's something that I feel that a lot of people don't do anymore.
It seems like a lot of people just throw stuff together. I mean, a lot of people do, but there's also a lot of good music coming out. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think it's like as I age, it's harder for me to tap into everything going
right.
on. Um, but I get turned on to new music from like my wife's kids and my kids, and there's a lot of good stuff coming out. And
Yeah.
I think it's almost diluted because like Spotify, there's over 100,000 songs released a day.
Oh God,
I
every
don't even
day.
begin to sift through all that stuff,
I,
right?
I, I, it's funny. My playlist considers of old now as I get older. I remember when my dad would play his 50s and 60s in the car. I'm like, God, man, you're so old.
Right.
And it's kind of funny now when I play the 80s and the 90s when I'm in the car with my kids. They're like, Dad, you're old. I'm like, Jesus. I just said that to my dad
What do
many.
they listen to? What do your kids listen to?
Oh, but my daughter is a Swiftie.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
She's really talented. I
she
mean,
is.
I'm not like I don't love Taylor Swift's like produced sound, but like
Yeah.
when she's stripped down with a guitar or with a
Oh
keyboard
yeah. She's
singing, it's beautiful. She's got a beautiful
oh she
voice,
does. She does. The only thing now is because I love football
right?
and now seeing her with Travis Kelsey, I swear to
Okay,
God, I could really not need to see Taylor Swift every 30 seconds.
right, exactly.
We know she's in the building. It was funny. I don't drink as like I used to when I was younger.
Okay,
I actually said to my wife, "Why don't we have a game?" She's like, "What's up?" Let's see how many shots it takes us to get drunk if we see Taylor Swift. So every time we see Taylor Swift on the TV, we take a shot.
right.
I think it was an hour before game. We counted 15 times. We would have been on the floor
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
it's like, oh, Taylor Swift dating Travis. I get it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't care.
But the thing is, I don't think she cares either. I mean, I don't think the two of them are like. they're the last thing they want is to have people like into their private life all the
Yeah,
time. You know that
but
they
it's
want
just like we
space.
just want to watch the game.
Yeah, they just want to watch the game and not have a camera in their face.
I
You
just no, but even though at home, I just want to watch the game.
just want to watch the game. Yeah, I
I
know.
really don't give a crap if Taylor Swift is there with Blake Lively. Blake
Right.
Lively, where's your husband Ryan Reynolds, by the way? Why isn't he not at the game with you? You
Yeah.
know?
Now, being from Jersey, are you a Springsteen fan at
Oh,
all?
I love Bruce Springsteen. Yes. I mean, I grew up listening to old school Springsteen, especially the 80s. Definitely one of my favorites is Glory Days. Um,
It's a great song.
it's one of my favorites. There's another one, Trapped.
Okay.
He did live at the Meadowlands, which is unbelievable. I listened to the CD version, but the live version is just so much better.
He's
Um,
fantastic live.
oh, I never had the pleasure of seeing him live, but
I don't think it's too late. I think he's still playing out
I think
there.
he's still playing. I mean, but if I can catch a show, I'll go. But it's with when you're prioritizing family first.
Yeah, and tickets got more expensive. We could spend hours talking about
Oh my
how
God.
scalpers basically take up such a large portion of the tickets and then resell them for umpteen price.
I've gotten lucky with buying some tickets. Like it's kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. Lincoln Park announced their world tour.
Right.
I'm a huge Lincoln Park fan,
Okay.
and I
They
like
kind
the
of like
fa
rap. It's like rap rock, right? They rap.
it's like yeah, it's like new metal. You know what I mean?
Yes, in the
It's
middle. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
so, but I always loved Lincoln Park. When Chester died, I just felt like a the one band like I grew up watching him from the beginning all the way till until Chester Bennington unfortunately passed away, and then they brought in this new girl Emily Armstrong, the new lead singer who replaced
Okay.
Chester. She sounds phenomenal.
Okay.
First
Great.
of all, I it was a different direction that Linkin Park went. I'm like, wow, wait a minute, a
They do
female.
a lot of new material. I mean, they
They
like
have the new material, but they were
she was,
doing
was she
she
singing the old material really well
she
too?
was singing the old material very well.
Good. Good.
So when I'm listening to some of these songs, I'm like, wow, she did hit that note pretty good. Like
Right.
it's not him, but it's her. She's doing it her way.
Right. Right.
So I said, wow, they're coming to New Jersey in August. I said, great, I want to buy tickets.
Hmm.
Oh God, I just saw the prices on upper tier. They wanted $600
Oh my
per
God.
ticket. I
That's
said,
great.
I said, you know what? When it gets closer, maybe I'll get lucky. You know, if I can snag a ticket or two with me and my wife can go, and I can find them a little bit cheaper, I'll do it. But I am not paying $600 a ticket.
The first time I really spent a lot of money for a ticket was seeing Neil Young in Austin.
Okay.
And it was $75 and I thought it was so much. It was like breaking the bank. It was so expensive.
Yeah, I believe it.
And I found out that he basically gave a large portion of the proceeds to the local food banks.
And that's cool. And that's
So
something I
he
admire.
would charge more money for the ticket, but a large portion. I mean, he wouldn't take that much for himself because he's a rich guy.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to help the community out that I'm playing in.
And that's amazing.
That's such a cool thing to do if you have that kind of ability to basically not take the proceeds and just give it away.
And
It's
that's
great.
something I admire because that's something no one ever does.
You
But
don't do that much anymore, do you?
no,
It
you
seems
don't.
like it seems like maybe even like COVID like there's a major shift that like people are much more into like self-preservation, which is
Hmm.
maybe understandable to a certain degree, but I notice that in general, like the whole country seems almost at odds. It's like
Listen, COVID did put us in a really tough position, and you know what?
changed the whole.
It changed the whole dynamic in the United States. I think in just not in the United States, but in the world.
I agree.
You, I think we did, you know what, at that point, who our president was, I think did a decent job. And I don't get into politics, but I'll just say
I'm
this.
not. I'm not talking
No,
politics here.
no, 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 no. But I'll just say this. You know what I mean? We did what we had to do as Americans to fight this as Americans. Granted, a lot of Americans lost their lives because of COVID.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, you know, I am a health risk with COVID still to this day
right.
because I have type 2 diabetes. I have high blood pressure.
Oh, okay.
So fighting, I never got COVID during. It's kind of funny. In the 2.5 years or 3 years of COVID that we were locked down or whatever it was for 2 years,
Right.
I never got COVID.
Okay.
I didn't
That's
get
you got
H
it early though, right?
I got it a year later after we thought it was done and we were mask free and everything.
Were you okay though? I mean, it was
Well, I was sick for about a week and a half. I thought it was pneumonia
okay.
because I felt like fluid in my lungs and I had that fever. I was running 103 temperature. I was not feeling great at all.
Did anybody else in your family get it? Or was it
Oh
just you?
my no no my daughter had it, my baby son had it, my wife had it, my mom had it, my uncle. It was kind of funny. It was
You all
after
have it at the
COVID.
same time, or was it like did it take like was it
It
kind of
took time. It took time for everyone to hit, but we were fine during the whole COVID thing. My son was born during COVID, towards the tail end of COVID. So that's when the hospitals were just allowing.
I've heard about that COVID baby thing. That's
That's
definitely
real.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
real.
it's real. That
It's real. But yeah, I got it early on, and I think the first wave of it was the most virulent. It was like the
yeah,
first initial wave was like, and we didn't have COVID shots. We got it.
no,
My wife and I were not married yet,
okay,
and we got it at the same time, and we made the decision to basically support each other because we had it exactly at the same times.
hmm
It was incredible how it worked. It was like the Lord basically blessed us every day because we sat there, and when I was down and I couldn't move and I was hurting, she felt okay and she could cook or she could do something,
yeah.
you know. And then she'd be down and I'd be up and I'd be able to do something for half
It
an hour. You
it
know, it was
was actually tough because I secluded when I get sick, I seclude away from the kids and my wife.
right.
I go to the basement where I have my laptop, I have my TV, I have stuff that keeps me busy
Yeah,
down here. And
yeah,
the bathroom will not be touched by the family because I'm using it. So the only time I would go upstairs, I would wear gloves, put a face mask on, and go up to use the shower. And then
right.
I'll wipe down the shower with Lysol and everything so my wife can use
Yeah, yeah.
it. And when we were in those COVID years, it was difficult because I was working as a masonry supply house. We were
Okay.
essential, so we had to work.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah,
like, but if we're not building anything, how the hell are we essential when people are not spending the money? Then actually, that 7 months of COVID, then
yeah.
everyone who couldn't go on their expensive vacations, their Disney's, their Hawaii trips, their
Right.
Mexican trips, their European trips. Then they started they started fixing their houses up. Oh, man, oh, and I tell you, we were so
So you
busy.
were doing that like during COVID, you were basically filling orders and masons were going to people's houses and building during COVID because they had
Yes.
better to do than build things
Yeah.
under the house.
So my company at the time I was still in working with them after these years. We, it was, I'll never forget it. Unfortunately, I tore my MCL during COVID and
How'd that
getting
happen?
I was at work. It was just a month after my son was born.
Right?
I took the month of August off. I came back in September.
Okay.
It was the first weekend of October, and it poured rain the night before. So during those COVID times, we had to tag material for our customers.
Okay.
So we had to tag how many pallets. We had to get them moved right away. So I
Okay.
was walking in my yard, in that yard where I was working at, and I see the pile of mud. I'm like, all right, I'll walk closer to the masonry products and hold on. And I stepped in the mud a little too deep
Mhm.
and my knee went forward. I went backwards and I heard nothing but ripping in my
Ripping.
knee. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my knee was locked. So I had to pick myself up somehow and I threw my knee out because it was locked in. I threw it like kind of pushed it back to,
So you dislocated and tore it.
yeah. So I tore the MCL in total shreds and sprained the ACLs. Thank God I didn't need surgery on
Oh,
that. So it took a month to see. It took 2 weeks to get a doctor because this is during workman's comp now. This is
yeah, yeah.
so I was home. What's kind of funny when we were during COVID, I was not depressed. I had more anxiety because I was more nervous with people. I felt more depression being at home, being useless.
That and I reflecting on it, I just think can you imagine being a newborn like in the beginning of COVID and spending the first year and a half of your life locked in a house with
Yeah.
no other kids, no other stimulus. All you have is a TV and a screen and your parents. I
Mhm.
mean, those kids are going to have some issues later on because that first 18 months is like extremely important for
Mhm.
language development. And somebody told me today that their child had to wear a mask
Mhm.
during the time that they were speaking, and
Yeah.
everybody around was wearing masks, and they developed a speech impediment because what they were hearing was they were hearing like a muffled speech. They weren't hearing the words
I
articulate.
guess, yeah. I gotta say this though. Luckily, my daughter didn't have that problem when she had the masks on. She was just in preschool,
Right,
and luckily she didn't have any of those problems.
right.
I gotta say, my mother, my wife, and my mother-in-law made those masks as best as they could before we ran out of those masks, which was kind of funny.
That,
So
that's pretty weird.
it was weird. I mean, the high demand of everything at that time was just it was horrible, and luckily, I think we all came out on top. Some of us struggled a little bit more than others, and some of us, no matter how much we struggled, we all came together.
I think the country really did come together. I
Yeah,
think, and I think that I really hope that my hope is, and this is a non-political statement.
yeah,
It's a humanity statement. I hope that the next 4, 8, 12
hmm,
umpteen years that our nation heals more and more and we start coming together and start realizing that our differences are far fewer than our similarities. I
fully
mean, if
agree.
you basically stop somebody in the street and you open your mind, your heart to that person and actually listen to them,
Hmm.
find that basically there's so much, and you have so much in common with every single person you meet.
Yeah, no,
There
and
are, there is that meat that you can get into, and you can feel like, hey, this is we're in this together.
I would fully agree with you on that one, and that we have to be all together too. We have to be as it says, one nation under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. That is a true statement,
Definitely it is.
and that
And I think that's something that hopefully is being rekindled.
I think
Hopefully,
it is. I mean, we're not seeing that kindling, but I feel that now, and maybe it could be 4 years later, it could be 8 years later. I just hope we all can come together and just be one, not individuals. Let's just say it that way.
I agree. I agree. I agree for
Uh,
sure.
well, I gotta say, man, Steve, we talked a lot here tonight. We
I
talked a
don't even
little.
know what time it is.
It's
I
almost 10 o'clock actually in New Jersey time.
Okay,
We
okay.
we actually covered a lot. First of all, your passion of music, your services too, which we still thank you very much for your time and that time. Your musical love of what you're doing is an amazing thing, man.
Thank you.
Before we end the night, let everybody know where they could find you actually.
Yeah, probably the best thing to do is well, my project name. I actually have two monikers. My acoustic mandolin is under Stephen with a V Wright, Wright Clarkson.
Hmm.
It's found on Spotify and all that kind of stuff. And that's mainly acoustic mandolin. That stuff I was doing back in the like 2008, 2009, 2010. And more recently, it's When Mountains Plural Speak. And that could be found on Spotify. Also, whenmountainspeak.net is my website. I've got a lot of really interesting content on YouTube under When Mountains Speak.
Hmm.
A lot of videos. I do all the videos myself or hire somebody, and they basically listen to my vision, and and I've got a whole range of things from very like lighter stuff to more like jazz fusion, kind of
Hmm.
heavy, really 70s Miles Davis kind of bitches brew kind of stuff.
Right.
So those are the best places to find me. Either my website or YouTube. I would really suggest going to YouTube, and I'm actually starting. I just recently YouTube reached out to me and said, "We really like your content. We want to have you start promoting your premium channel.
Nice.
We want to help you do this, and if you do these certain things, we're going to give you bonuses, and we're going to help you, facilitate and
Hmm.
advertising for you and all this kind of stuff." And this is YouTube reaching out to me, which was really an honor. I mean, I really felt
Yeah.
good. But so it's When Mountains, plural again with an S,
Hmm.
Speak on YouTube at When Mountains Speak, and a lot of stuff. I mean, you have to really deep. I think part of being a creative, I mean, being in school, it's starting to kind of rope me in. It's they've thrown the rope, they've caught me, and they're dragging me in because I'm starting to learn there's a lot more to it than just being creative.
Right.
There's a business side to it too, and that's one thing Mason's been helping me out with a lot. But also in Berkeley, I'm learning all these things I need to do, and I've got this laundry list of checklists I got to start checking off and the business side of it, and
Right.
spend a little less time playing, a little more time like typing and calling and what have you. But again, it's really not for me. It's less about the money and more about the creativity and connecting with others and
Mhm.
providing something that people can relate to.
Right.
It's an escape. I guess what I hope I provide through my music is an escape because we all love to, as busy as our lives are and as
Mhm.
crazy as our lives are, when we listen to music, we want to basically go someplace else and
Mhm.
not think about our all the stuff we deal with every day. During that time, we're listening to music.
Right.
And so, but
But listen, I gotta say thank you for taking the time out tonight.
thank
Uh,
you very much, Alex. I really
uh,
appreciate
I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, love the conversation we had tonight.
it.
I see the passion. I love it. You keep grinding too. Now that you're learning more with college, but Mason too. I really admire what you're doing, man, and
Thank you.
I
How
appreciate
are you doing too? This is great.
I really appreciate that too. It means a lot to me. And hopefully, if when you always welcome to come back on the show without a doubt. You can
Thank
always
you.
email me. You can always
Appreciate
give me a shout. Love to have you back on, man. And I always love my repeat guests. I will say that.
it.
So,
Good. It's good.
guys, you can see dreams do come true. Here we go with Steven. He's got it. He's got what he's doing, man. He loves his music. And as you can see how I love doing my show. And you know, keep looking out. We got new stuff coming out soon, guys. And nothing, like I always say at the end of my show, it's nothing but love, peace, and happiness. Good night, everybody.
Sounds good. Cool.